and welcome to what is the return of DisruptEDTV. The aim is that DisruptEDTV will be back with you in 2024 as a weekly podcast. But today I've got a fabulous opportunity to have a chat with two fabulous educators to talk about what is coming through in the coalition agreement, what we think is in store for us as educators in 2024. So my name is Claire Amos. This is DisruptEDTV, and this morning I am joined by none other than the fabulous Nicola Ngarewa and Stephen Lethbridge. Over to you, Nicola.
Ai kano te mihi aroha kia koutou katoa, ko Nicola Ngarewa he uri ahau no ngā te ruanui, ngā rauru, ngā ruahinirangi, a he tumuaki hoki I te kuratura o ngā motu. So just a warm, wonderful mihi greeting to each and every one of you. Nicola Ngarewa, born and bred in South Taranaki. I affiliate to Ngāti Ruanui, ngā rauru, ngā ruahinirangi, and I'm also very fortunate to be the principal at Spotswood College in Taranaki. Kia ora.
Kia ora. And Stephen, up to you.
Morena, Stephen Lethbridge tōku ingoa, tumuaki o Rangimatarau, Point Chevalier School in central Auckland, and the lead mistake maker here. Looking forward to having a bit of a chat about what's going on.
Awesome. And I also have the absolute privilege of being tumuaki at Okahukura Matua, Albany Senior High School. So this morning we're going to chat about what has been presented to us in the recent coalition agreement. So just to give a little bit of a reminder and a little bit of a summary as what got put on the table when National met with the ACT Party and New Zealand First. So we have the reintroduction of partnership skills, not that we know the detail of what that will look like. There is a desire to explore further options to increase school choice and expand integrated and independent schools potentially, reporting and enforcement action around truancy, including centrally collected and publishing of attendance data, the cost effectiveness of school lunch program. I'm guessing they're wanting to cut corners on that, and the fees free going to the final year. And we've also got some stuff around tertiary education. They have to support a free speech policy. And also there's this desire, and I don't even know what this means, to enshrine educational attainment as the paramount objective for state schools. So, you know, don't worry about that well-being or anything else. We've got to make sure that it's all about educational attainment. And another interesting cloaked statement, restore balance to Aotearoa New Zealand's history curriculum. Another interesting one, considering I thought that's what the rewrite was about in the first place. And then from New Zealand First, we've got a few other ones. We've got compulsory education and address truancy, so a similar focus on that. A focus on getting back to basics, emphasising reading, writing and maths, and refocusing on academic achievement and not ideology, including the removal and replacement of the gender, sexuality and relationship-based education guidelines, and to stop the first year's free. So that will swap to being the last one, and also an apprenticeship boost scheme, which is pretty benign and seems like a pretty good idea. And of course, we know what came through with National and their promises. There was very much a focus on making sure we have an hour each of reading, writing, maths. And of course, we've got the headline policy for education of banning cell phones. So lots to discuss in this morning's chat. So firstly, over to you, Nicola. What was some of your initial sort of responses and takeaways when you heard that National ACT and New Zealand First Coalition announcement?
Interesting. And, you know, I guess I have to be really honest, initially I was feeling a little bit, goodness me, we've made so much progress in these amazing areas, and some of the things, although I have to point out, they're just very, you know, they're just the lines at the moment. We haven't really got enough detail to give enough.
Yeah, as always, the devil will be in the detail, won't it?
Will be in the detail, absolutely. But I guess I kind of went through this journey of feeling really disheartened. Like I feel like we've been really challenged with some things that philosophically is so different than the journey that we've been on, that absolutely puts our young people at the centre, TDT-led, you know, equity, some amazing steps that we've been taking forward. We're not quite there, but at least we're on that journey. But I think I sort of had to realign my thinking and just remain really optimistic. Actually, it doesn't matter, at this time of elections, post-elections, we've got a new government coming in. It feels like this every single time. You're never quite sure where you stand. But I have faith in our profession. I have faith in us as educational leaders that we're going to do what's right, despite some of the, I guess, the flavour of the times. Because effectively we're about kids, we're about our hardworking staff, and we do know the difference between what's wrong and right. And so, as we've always been able to do as educators, we can interpret and navigate through things that are still fundamentally about what we believe in. And I think there's a really good tone and belief there within our sector.
And I don't know about both of you, but I'm yet to meet an educational leader who doesn't put educational attainment first, doesn't care about literacy and numeracy, and doesn't want kids attending and engaged with their learning. So one of the things that I find a little bit frustrating about all of this is it feels like it's speaking to the parents in terms of the things that they think schools should care about, when in fact it is exactly what we care about and what is our bread and butter each and every day. What were your feelings, Stephen, as a leader of a primary school?
Yeah, the back to basics and doing the basics brilliantly call. That's pretty much, I think, since I've been teaching. I started in 1995. That's what we've been doing. We've been working hard with reading, writing, and maths. Learning isn't a race, right? And the thing that we talk about with our parents at school is that, yeah, we teach kids to read, we teach them to write, we teach them to be numerate. But the most important stuff at a primary school level is helping kids find out what they love doing. Giving them a broad experience of all of the curriculum areas, teaching them to be good people, teaching them to be critical. I think I was left feeling the same way as Nicola, a little downhearted, disillusioned. But again, coming out on the other side, up that roller coaster is, well, we had 9 years of national standards. And those kids are in high schools now, and they are the reason that there is this back to basics approach. We've had this achievement.
The kids that had the back to basics experience,
yep,
actually didn't get the outcomes they want. So we're going back to basics again.
Yeah,
I think you're right. Claire, so it does speak to whānau. I could imagine there's lots of parents going, absolutely great. But when you're kind of, as you're saying, Stephen, intimately involved in what's happening as we are as leaders and as our teachers and staff are, we kind of think, well, we're doing most of that already anyway.
Yeah.
And
going back to there was a launch with the minister and the prime minister at an intermediate school down in South Auckland, where they focus solely on the fact that this is a school that does reading, writing. They do this hour of maths and reading and writing each day. When you look at their curriculum delivery document, they do 4 periods of maths a week and 5 periods of English. That's not an hour a day. But it's a successful school. They do amazing things for their kids, and it's just a little bit disingenuous to hit the whole sector with a mandate. It really comes back to the fact that governments should not be involved in what is going on in our classrooms. We need this bipartisan approach, and we need to move them out. They don't do this. They don't tell doctors how to operate. They work at the system level and provide resources for doctors to do that. And that's what needs to happen in education.
Yeah, I'm getting a little bit concerned that we have this passion and we see it time and time again. And, and I had someone thinking that I was being critical because it was, a certain flavour of government. Heck, I was critical of what was happening in the last 3 years. And I think what always upsets me the most when I see simplistic solutions to complex problems and this idea that it's somehow binary, that you do reading and writing and maths or you don't, or you do, this bit of the history curriculum or you don't. Like, we all know that the best teaching and learning is the teaching and learning that is relevant to the child, to the young person, that is localized, that is looking at the world that they live in and the interests that they have. And so, yeah, it just frustrates the heck out of me when we get these throwaway one-liners of like simple solutions and equations of 1 hour of this, 1 hour of that, 1 hour of that. Ban the cell phones and everyone will be there, and let's punish people around being away from school. That's the other thing that really concerns me is the narrative around punitive responses to issues around engagement and truancy. I realise it's probably quite different for you, Stephen, in a primary context, but in a secondary context, I would love to see us change the conversation from one around attendance to what engagement might look like. Like, I think the world has changed. These young people's lives and the way their families have lived is changed. And I'm less interested in whether students are there every single period of the week at school physically. What I am interested in is how they are engaged with their learning. And you can be present for learning in a whole lot of different ways. And the fact that we might become really punitive and start having league tables around the periods of week that a student is physically attending school really upsets me and concerns me. And what's your take on that, Nicola?
Well, it's such a complex issue. We were talking as a staff the other day about this. We said, we've got some beautiful young people who they're living in tents with their whānau. They have to move camping grounds every 5 days. So just being able to get to kura is a huge, huge challenge. And this is one of many whānau that we have across our country. And so to say, if you're not at school, potentially this will happen, instead of how can we work with you holistically with your well-being.
Those parents being fined is going to be really helpful, eh?
We're further disadvantaging those whānau that we most need to be engaging and working out how can we collectively with other organisations or other whānau support, whānau water, whatever it might look like, help to solve the issues so that we can have these young people as part of an educational journey. And like you see, whatever that looks like, because it's a very diverse spectrum of what that can be depending on who the young people are. So I have grave concerns that once again, we're going to be inadvertently disadvantaging and punishing those people who most need to be supported by us in many different ways. Yeah, and the league table stuff, that's just, because we really want to compete and we want the winners and losers of attendance. And what communities are going to be at the bottom of those league tables and what the narrative potentially around that's going to be. It's scary.
I see it in our school in terms of those young people who may actually not be full-time at school for well-being and mental health reasons, and those young people may be as engaged, if not more engaged with their learning, because we are a one-to-one device school. We've got a robust digital strategy. We do, in essence, deliver hybrid learning on a day-to-day basis. So we need, the world of work is looking different. So why the heck shouldn't the world of schooling and education be looking different as well? So, we've got those who are in need, like, we don't know what's going on in their households. There's those young people who are supporting their families. I would much rather they were coming to school 3 or 4 days a week and able to work during the day than coming to school 5 days a week and doing frickin' night-long shifts and coming back into school. In the ideal world, they wouldn't need to work to support their family. But whilst they do, I would rather us have a sort of a flexible model of teaching and learning that wasn't bound to this 5-year pipeline in secondary school either. I don't care, if it takes them 2 years to get their qualification, if it takes more time and it means they can do things for their family or they can look after their mental health, so be it. Stephen, how do you focus on attendance? Because I know it is an issue in primary school and it's not quite the same in terms of you obviously wouldn't want to encourage probably flexible learning in the same way that we might in, say, a senior secondary school.
Yeah, it definitely is an issue. We're looking at, with our kahuiaku, we're looking at attendance and engagement across the whole of the 12 schools. And so, employing not necessarily truancy officers or engaging with truancy services, but employing attendance and engagement support workers is a key for us. I think one of the unintended consequences that people aren't aware of may be a significant number of our our families in Auckland especially, who love to take a week off before the school holidays and head overseas or go skiing or do all this sort of stuff. I wonder how those families are going to feel about being labelled truant and being fined for that, So, there's a whole lot of other fish hooks and stuff like this. We have kids who definitely struggle to come to school, and we're out there working with their whānau and working with other agencies to make sure that we've got the resourcing in place to enable that to happen. Punitive doesn't work. It just doesn't work. It's tried in England. You find in England they've still got truancy issues. It's engagement, making schools the place to be.
I'm really interested in what comes out of the Queensland decision, so that they've now given their schools sort of at a state level that permission to go to 4-day at school week. I think schools can still choose how they engage with it. And I was at ACEL, the Australian Centre for Educational Leadership Conference in the October holidays, and went to one of the schools that was a Catholic school that had chosen to give their Year 12s Thursday. They could choose whether they physically attended school or not. On that day, they offered workshops that students could come to. So the teachers were still on a full timetabled week, but the students could choose whether they come into those workshop classes, whether they decided to work from home on that day. Some kids were quite open about the fact that they were working. They were using it as a mental health day. And the really interesting initial data that came out of that piece of work at that Queensland high school is their attendance actually went up on the other days. As soon as there was a day of prescribed flexibility where students could work or sleep or come to workshops, do extension work, whatever it is they wanted to do, and they had that flexibility, they found that if they did need to take a wellbeing day, or they did need to go do a driver's license test, or they did need to go and work, they would do it on that flexible learning day. And the outcomes for learners are either the same or better than they were before. So, I had previously been at a school where we had massive attendance issues, and so we focused at real solution focus with absolutely, like you're saying, Stephen, with engagement at the centre. What that meant for that community is we started school at 7:30 for those that wanted to. We went through to 5:30. We did 3-day weeks. We did 5-day weeks. We had a whole range of different options for young people that were working or had other responsibilities that were just part and parcel of how they lived. And that had a phenomenal significant increase, because we looked at what are we needing to be doing differently, and what does we need to be presenting to the community differently, and just having a whole wide range of options meant that we're getting much better attendance overall and much better outcomes. So there is multiple ways of doing things rather than just this is the only way, and if we don't do it this way, be prepared, these are the consequences. I think one of the biggest concerns coming through then is this sense of one size fits all and very standardized solutions to issues, because what you've both talked about is being utterly responsive to your community and the needs that they have, and solutions that fit that community's set of complex needs. And that brings to mind the one size fits all approach to banning of cell phones. On one hand, I can understand that reducing screen time. Like I'm a big believer. We're a senior school. I'm a big believer in our young people having some personal responsibility about their relationship with their devices. I do talk to our teachers often about the fact that they are the teachers in the classroom, and if kids need to have their phones away, they have their phones away. You can make that call, and you can respond to that need. But this idea of deciding for the country that we're going to ban cell phones, we're going to ban them in the classrooms, we're going to ban them in the playgrounds at morning tea and lunchtime, it's nearly like a solution looking for a problem. Because my sense is that the schools that wanted to ban cell phones have already banned cell phones. How are you each sort of sitting? Obviously, Stephen, you coming from a primary background will have a different view on this to you, Nicola, who I suspect might be in a similar place to where I am at the moment. Stephen, where are you with this one?
So we've always had, if you need a cell phone, you know, we've got diabetics, we've got who manage everything through their phone. We've got kids who take buses to and from, so parents want to make sure that their kids are safe and okay. So we've always had a point of view of, if you bring a cell phone to school, and at the primary level, most schools would be doing this, you hand it in at the office, we put it in a little bag and look after it for you, and you pick it up at the end of the day. And that's always been the approach. You know, it's one of those dog whistle things that really don't affect anyone. And schools, like you said, that weren't encouraging phones in schools, they already had them away. They already had systems in place. It's a populist piece.
The fact that it's in the first 100 days, you know, like it's like this,
whoa,
it's going to be this win.
Fantastic.
And then when we ban cell phones, suddenly numeracy and literacy levels are going to skyrocket, because this is going to solve all of the problems. Because according to that one question asked as part of the PISA test, we have the worst behaved children in the classroom in the world, or something along those lines. It's like, oh, for goodness sake, you know, like anyone who's taught in other countries and then come and taught in a New Zealand context would be going, what the heck? Our kids are great. You know, yes, they're vocal. Yes, they have opinions, but I certainly don't think they could ever be classified as the worst behaved young people. What about you, Nicola? Where are you sitting? Sorry,
I don't
Stephen.
know how you guys are going to manage it in secondary school. It's just, you know, is there going to be blocking technology, cell phone blockers? There's going to be a proliferation of a whole lot of other technology.
Hell no, in my school context is the answer to that.
Yeah.
Nicola, where are you going? Where are you thinking on this issue?
Really, unless the kids are using it as a learning tool, they're not really out in the classroom anyway. I mean, there always is going to be the odd child that might, you know, sneak something out on their phone, but they're not meant to, and that will be addressed. I think the biggest thing for us would be breaks. You know, how on earth do we manage and, you know, and navigate through that during break times? And I'm not quite sure what the answers are. And I'm really keen to hear what other people are going to be doing, because we've been a school that's been more focused on helping our young people to manage their behaviours around technology, as opposed to controlling it. So that's a new space. What about you, Claire? Because you'll be in a really...
I really struggle. I'm happy to have a blanket policy that says that phones shouldn't be out in the classroom unless it's for learning. That's fine. I mean, that sort of is our approach anyway. We probably could police that more firmly than we have in the past. And quite frankly, if it gives teachers the confidence to do that, like I've been a big believer. I've never had a problem. Like I never had a problem in my classroom, because I just had the expectation and put them away. Otherwise, I'll stack them up over here. You know, like I've always felt like teachers should have agency around that stuff and be able to control that. That should be part of their behavioural toolkit that they have anyway. But when it comes to phones in break time, I'm not actually willing to remove it from students. We have a number of students that are anxious, that are dealing with a range of well-being issues that might be socially isolated. I mean, taking a phone off them isn't suddenly going to make them less socially isolated. It's going to make them more so. You know, it is their wallet. It is their calendar. It is their entertainment, is their way of communicating and finding their mates and navigating and negotiating their way through their social space. I think morning tea and lunchtime, you know, if we're concerned about making them more active, one of the things we've done is we've really doubled down. Our sports department has rebranded themselves as Ashes Sports and Recreation, and they do a phenomenal amount of work in terms of, we have, you know, kids skateboarding at lunchtime, we have roller skating sessions, we have pickleball, we have all sorts of social sporting and recreation. You know, if that's what we're trying to do by banning cell phones, I don't think that's the answer. I think what you do is you make the other stuff sticky and appealing, and you get the kids out and about. And if a kid is anxious, if a kid is socially isolated and their phone is their way of, you know, even if it is a self-soothing device, I don't think it's our job to take that away from them. So I'm going to be really interested to see what the final policy looks like. So for those of you who aren't school leaders, we received an update this week from the ministry just telling us that we would be expected to have a policy in place during term one. but that it also stipulated that we were yet to have the detail around what that policy would look like. So when, for a lot of schools, if they already ban cell phones, it's business as usual. For schools like Albany Senior High School, where we probably are more on the liberal end of things in terms of cell phone use, it will look like tweaking it. I've got no problem about having a high-level message around cell phones should be away in class time, except for if it's being used for learning. I do find the morning tea and lunchtime thing more problematic, and I'm interested to see what the caveats look like in terms of if we recognise that it may be a wellbeing tool for young people at morning lunchtime, does that mean we don't have to take them off? I've got sort of 15 to 18-year-olds. They're not going to want to hand over their devices. And I think there'll be a great market for burner phones if we start doing that.
Yep.
I don't know. I think.
And how does this work with surrender and seizure and all those other pieces of legislation that we have? At the risk of alienating myself from secondary school people, if mobile devices are an issue in your classroom, make your classrooms more engaging. Up your content, up your engagement with kids so that they're not looking at their phones.
Absolutely.
Be a bit more creative. It's not rocket science, right?
No, and it's absolutely not the problem. So, so we've covered off a lot of those coalition deal things and the headline things at National. We all agree that reading, writing and maths, that's our bread and butter anyway. And actually a school doing that well will not serve those up in isolation. We've talked about this desire to focus on educational attainment. Again, that's a no-brainer. It's part of what we do. It's never going to be the only thing we focus on. I don't care what they ask for, because quite frankly, success looks different for every different young person in our classroom. And we've talked about this nonsense banning of cell phone. I'm really interested in that bloody, excuse my language, that little throwaway line that's tucked in there about rebalancing New Zealand histories.
Well, I'm assuming what that means is that we need to, as schools, get out there and work more collaboratively with our iwi and our community, so that we can ensure that these stories are part of it, truly part of it, authentically of our community, and that they're somewhere in guiding, leading, and reviewing and auditing how well we're doing it. So I'm assuming that's what that means.
So David's actually requesting that we become more authentically bicultural in our approaches to teaching. That's really kind of him, isn't it? Is that what you were assuming as well, Stephen?
Yeah, well, I mean, the rebalancing, I've always got that cynical aspect in the back of my mind. I'm probably not as kind as most people, but, there is this, I think it's wider than that too. This whole English first notion about, rebranding and changing names. Look, if you can't work out what Te Whatu Ora is, maybe the education system as a whole has failed. If you can't work that stuff out, then you're not fit for purpose in society. But what that bigger picture is doing, it's sending a message to people that now it's okay to come out of the woodwork and start being bigoted. And I thought we got through that. When I had a parent in my office at my last school say, I don't like I respect your culture, but I don't like you Maorifying our school. And I said, I was born in England, mate. Yeah, but you use Māori all the time. You use te reo in introductions. You use, you open meetings that way. And the problem is, and now we got over that. Yeah. We got over that. We managed to have our school bilingual, named bilingually, and acknowledge that in a high socioeconomic area. No problems, not even a peep. Now what this sort of stuff does in a general sense is open up the floodgates for people to go, I don't want my child to learn te reo Māori in school.
Yeah.
And I don't like having those conversations.
No.
And they shouldn't be happening. Yeah.
And I think we have, and of course I was being facetious when I was saying that I think that's what it means. But, I would like to think that, as a professional body, as amazing educators within the sector that we are, that we would be very strong no matter what the mandate potentially could be, and saying, actually, that's wrong. You know, we've made huge progress. We're doing what we should be doing for tangata whenua, for Māori, for Pacifica, for our rainbow youth, and we're going to take a stand around some of these things. So I'd like to think that we, as leadership, you know, as leaders in the sector, know what's right and wrong, and we know when it's time to voice respectfully but very strongly our stance against that, rather than what I guess I've got to fear is that we all know this, and if it comes down to it, we're going to sit back and let that happen, even though we can see and feel the difference that it's made. Because
and we have to go back to, sorry, Nicola, we have to go back to our code, our values, and our standards. And whatever is coming into schools, how does that match up and align with what we have signed up to as educators?
We're not doing our job if we're not te tiriti led.
Yeah, and we're not doing, I mean, one of the, you know, manakitanga, you know, far out, you know, looking at the gender and sexuality and those things, and starting to pull back on that because it's ideology based, you know, that goes against one of our values and our standards. So,
well, it's also in the NALPs.
Strong.
Unless they're going to eradicate the NALPs. The NALPs are really explicit. So our National Education and Learning, what's the P stand for? Why have I forgotten it? But the NALPs that guide everything that we do within our school, our standards for the teaching profession, the code of professional responsibility, all of that has, you know, is focused on creating safe and inclusive environments, making sure that we are honouring, you know, the fact that we are a bicultural country and that we are, in essence, te tiriti-led, is hardwired into all of those expectations that we have as educators. Nicola, we've talked in the past about your journey with Spotswood as a te tiriti-led school. Can you just give us a quick summary of what that means for you as a secondary school leader?
And we're still on that journey, I have to say too. But effectively, it means that what we put is the, you know, we put the belief of te tiriti, of honouring that of tangata whenua, of reo, tikanga, all of those things at the centre of our thinking and learning. And so when we go to make decisions, whether it's strategic decisions or financial resourcing, we always come back to how does that align and fit within our, and I like that word, our hardwiring of how we operate. And that has been a journey. Perhaps, you know, 5-6 years ago, we were at the beginning of that spectrum and people, but we weren't there. And I think absolutely you're right, Stephen, those things have become really normalised, like mihi and the reo, having bicultural heading, all those sorts of things, actually really simple. You know, really simple things have become just the norm. I guess the question that I have is, do you, you know, if it comes down to it, because we absolutely know as educationalists, and I think fundamentally most of us believe that this has been a good shift and journey for us. If it comes down to it, do you think we would just, you know, that we just suddenly take that out of a hardwiring system and we just sit down and off we go again? Or what do you think?
I just hope it doesn't give oxygen to those who don't prioritise this stuff, and that we don't see, you know, anything other than a te tiriti sort of led approach to leading our schools as being celebrated. Like one of the things I would love to see happen, because quite frankly, I think this is a rebalancing, is I would love us to have a real push nationally to have a te reo names for our schools first. So one of the things I've said to my staff is we're absolutely on a journey where I would say we're in the early stages of Mātauranga Māori sort of focus as a school and trying to think about it in the way we do things. So not additive stuff, not superficial stuff, but in the way we operate and we make our decisions. But one of the things I think we can do in a very public way is be o Kahukura Mātua first, rather than Albanese Senior High School. So, I mean, I would love to push that challenge out for 2024. If we want to rebalance, that's one of the best ways we can rebalance. Let's make sure that we're using our te reo names first. Yes, Albanese Senior High School's there all throughout all of our marketing and our labels and all the rest of it, but we are first and foremost a kahukura mātua, and I'm really proud of that. And I don't know, I have no time for allowing people, as you say, Stephen, there is a concern. It does give people permission to, criticise and say ridiculous things. I just hope that every educational leader in the country recognises that it is in the NALPs, it is in the standards for the teaching profession, it is in the code of professional responsibility. We need to make sure that we are te tiriti-led educators and that we are looking to work in partnership with our communities to recognise what that means for each and every school, because there isn't a one-size-fits-all version of that either. Yeah, I don't know about you. What are you looking forward to in 2024? I'm sort of, part of me, I think I'm a bit like you two in the sense that I saw the coalition announcements. I saw what made the headlines for it. Like, it was an underwhelming education suite of policies regardless. Like, they were all like, oh, for God's sake, they are just bloody headline policies that actually mean nothing much on the ground. But I guess part of me also recognise in them being those kind of policies means I can just get on and do the goddamn work in my school and my community. And I'm really excited about the journey that we're on as educators at the moment in terms of our focus on Mātauranga Māori, our focus on universal design for learning. For Albany Senior High School, there's a focus on real responsive assessment practices. And at the end of the day, what we care about is each and every young person having an educational experience that's fit for purpose for them in the age that we're living in. And I am still thankful, even though I may not agree with everything that's happening with particularly the NCEA refresh, I actually am excited about what's happening with the NZC, the curriculum refresh. I think that's really positive. I've got a little bit of nervousness that I've heard our new minister talking about rewriting the curriculum. I feel like, I hope that gets lost along the way, but as part of a cost-cutting measure, because quite frankly, the work that has been done on the refresh in Te Mau Tahoe is incredible and really, really promising. So as much as I'm frustrated about some of the things that have been announced, I'm excited to be in a country where we are self-governing schools, where we have the agency as school leaders to do what we believe is right for our young people. What about you two? What are we looking forward to in 2024?
Yeah, I think we're probably in a really similar boat. I said to our staff on our last day, I said, I think we're on a great journey. No matter what's happening, we're going to continue to do what we're doing. I don't think there's anything that's going to stop us, which is about students as centre, community at the heart. So I'm looking forward, I have to say, first of all, to a really good break. I'm really looking forward to that. But then come back, refreshed, reset, and we just keep tracking on. It's exactly as you've said, Claire. I think some exciting stuff coming. New Zealand curriculum, love it. The refresh, brilliant.
Yeah, the refresh is fantastic. It's a fantastic refresh. And again, it's almost like Groundhog Day, right? 2007, we had that amazing curriculum. And then national standards hit. And now we've had a lot of work on the curriculum refresh. And now we're sort of, and now we're being told that we have to look at ideology. And, it's been an ideological approach. Well, the ideology coming through at the moment is direct instruction, knowledge-rich curriculum. And that's what the ideology of, people like the New Zealand Initiative promote from their views of what's going on in the world.
No, it's no less ideological. It's just a different
No, it's
ideology.
No less ideological. What we are looking forward to is building our adaptive expertise. Knowing what to do when you don't know what to do when a child presents with something and you've got this problem of practice. And I think that what's happened in the past few years, people have seen problems or achievement issues and gone searching for a silver bullet to fix it really quickly. And we don't have silver bullets. What we do have is we have the ability to influence our teachers and build their kite of tools to help kids get to where they need to be. And when you've got a difference of experience in our profession, you've got our new teachers that need rule-governed behaviour and our experienced teachers that need to just be able to fly and flow, and they're in the mode. So we're looking forward to deepening our adaptive expertise through spirals of inquiry. That's what we're heading for, and just to keep doing the work and keep the focus on kids saying wow. Wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's
And,
it.
you know.
And that's what we want from our schools, right? That's what we want from our teachers.
Yeah, and
We
I'd
don't
like
want a recipe.
No, we don't. And resource us well and trust us to do our jobs and absolutely expect us to get good outcomes for our kids, but recognize that time-bound academic achievement and league tables does not necessarily mean success either.
Right.
You know, it's not a competition, it's not a race. And if it takes a child 2 years to get where it takes another child 1 year to get, so be it. If it means that we look after their well-being, that we are acknowledging their family life and their situation or whatever it might be, that might be the reason for them taking more time. That's okay. That's actually okay. You know,
learning isn't a race.
No,
it's not a race,
it's
right?
not. It doesn't stop at year 13 either.
Yeah.
You know, we are just a little bite-sized chunk of what should be a lifetime of learning for these young people. And the idea that we produce these little finished products by year 13 is absolute bonkers and nonsense.
Yeah.
So in closing, we're excited about 2024. DisruptEDTV is back for 2024. Have we got any topics or ideas? People, what should we be talking about? What do we need to discuss and what do we need to surface? I know that you two are going to offer to be guest hosts at different times as well, so that's good. Just signing you up here and now. What are we thinking about in terms of topics that need to be discussed, we think, in 2024?
AI.
Yes. Yep. It's very real. It's here. The Pandora's box is opened and we need to accept that. Australia's just come out with some government guidelines that could be really interesting to look at and its reality. What's on top for you, Nicola? What do you think we need to discuss?
I'd like to unpack it from a tauranga mana Māori oriti a bit more than what, you know, keep those conversations going. I think that's really a really important corridor to be had.
Yes. And if you've got examples, if you've got people, and that's, you know, you, Stephen, and you, Nicola, but also anyone that's watching this, if you've got any topics that you'd love us to discuss, if you've got any people you'd like us to hunt down and sniff out and have a chat to.
Yeah, have a corridor with our minister, because it's always good to hear other perspectives in there as well. You know, that's an important part of what this is all about.
Yeah, open invitation to Erica Sanford, who's our now new Minister for Education, to David, to Winnie. You are welcome on DisruptEDTV anytime. On that note, I'm going to wrap us up. Thank you so much to my guests this morning, Stephen Lethbridge and Nicola Ngarewa. As always, beautiful to see your faces and fantastic to be able to have a conversation and a chat. To those of you who managed to stay on until this end point of the podcast, I know it will be in few numbers. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Have a fabulous, well-deserved break, and we look forward to seeing you again in 2024.
Ngā mihi.
Arera.
Kia ora koutou.